Hey everyone, this is Ryan from OnlineSellingExperiment.com. I'd like to welcome you to this webinar about getting started selling on Amazon. I'm going to get a few things set up here and then we'll get things rolling. If you could let me know in the chat if you can hear me okay and where you're tuning in from, that would be great, and then we'll get things started. If you're just jumping on, let me know where you're tuning in from. Cool. We got Richard, James, Nancy. Cool. Looks like we're all set up and running. Good to see all of you guys here. Cool. Welcome. Lots of people tuning in here. Good deal. Got Joe from Madison, Jeff. Thank you guys. Cool. All right. We will get started in just a second. So on this one, we're going to be covering 10 of the most common questions I get asked about getting started selling on Amazon. And then we'll dive into a Q&A session after that. Should be about 30 to 45 minutes going over the top 10 questions, and then we'll jump into the questions that you guys have that are live here on the call. So if you have questions, you can feel free to start putting them or start getting those ready. There should be a Q&A option in the chat to submit a question. So please submit them as a question as opposed to just going into the chat. And that way it's a lot easier to keep track of. They show up in a separate screen for me, and then it'll be a much higher chance of getting your question answered. But I've got at least 30 minutes dedicated to Q&A, so we'll get through as many questions as we can. And like I said, put those in the Q&A section. Feel free to toss those in there anytime if we happen to cover them previously. I'll skip over them when we get to the Q&A section. Otherwise, if it's a new one, then we'll cover it then. All right, so I'm going to jump over here and do a screen share, and then let you guys okay, cool. So it looks like we are in here. So like I said, this will be answers to the top 10 questions about, or the top 10 most common questions I get asked about getting started selling on Amazon. So first I'll just share a little bit about me, and then we'll dive into this. Most of you probably have some background on me, but I'll just share a quick overview, and then we'll dive right into the questions. So I started selling online back in about 2008. I was a freshman in college and noticed the discrepancy between what the bookstore was offering me for my books compared to what I paid for them initially. And I felt that I was basically getting ripped off by the bookstore, and that led me to exploring other options. And one of those options was selling on Amazon, selling my books there. And I sold my books from that first semester on Amazon, and I've kind of been hooked ever since. Throughout college, I would sell books that my friends had. I would do many textbook buyback events, buying books from other students on campus, and then selling those on Amazon. And then gradually I expanded into other products. I graduated college and started working as an accountant in January of 2012. And that job didn't really fit with what I was looking to do with my life. I didn't find it very fulfilling, and it just wasn't the right path for me. So I decided pretty quickly once I was there that I was going to start plotting my exit. And I felt that the fastest path was to sell more products online. And I started looking for ways to do that. Led me to sourcing in big box stores, doing retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, buying low, selling high. And it's turned into quite a bit more than that. So I ultimately quit the accounting job and started this business full-time on September 20th, 2013. And so far, haven't looked back. We're about 4.5 years past that, and things have been going well. So if we fast forward to today, that's a look at my office. We just moved into this space in the summer of this year. We were in about a 700 square foot warehouse before that, and then now we're in about a 3,700 square foot space. We've got a bigger office. We've got our own warehouse, own loading dock. That screenshot there you can see for sales. That is for 2016. I should get that updated now that it's 2017, but we beat that number by over 30% for 2018, and it was, or for 2017. So the screenshot there is for 2016. Excuse me if I messed that up, but that's 2016. We did beat that by 30% in 2017, and we're hoping to continue that growth throughout 2018 as well. My business operates in a few different areas. We sell on Amazon, eBay, Jet.com. We sell through a couple of our own websites. One of those was an existing Shopify site that I purchased, and then we're approved on Walmart, but we haven't sold anything there just yet. The primary sourcing methods that we use are retail arbitrage, which is buying items in retail stores, selling them on Amazon, and then online arbitrage, which is effectively the same thing except buying them in online stores as opposed to retail stores. And then we do some wholesale sourcing as well. That's buying items from manufacturers and distributors of existing brands and then turning around and selling those on Amazon. So those are the main focuses for my business at this time. We definitely didn't start off doing all of those at once. It's built up to this over time. But that's what it looks like today. So now we'll start diving into the questions about getting started selling on Amazon. So the first one I'm going to go over, and there will be more advanced questions than this too, so don't worry if you already know how the full process works. But can you provide a general overview of how the fulfillment by Amazon process works? So I'll just give you a quick rundown of how the whole process looks, and like I said, in future questions we'll get into more specifics. So the way it works is you have an item that you want to sell. Most people get started with retail arbitrage, which is buying an item on clearance at a local store. So once you have that item, what you're going to do is you're going to list it for sale on Amazon. And what that means is you're going to basically type in the UPC on the product or the name of the product, find that listing on Amazon, indicate to Amazon that you want to sell that product. And then from there, you'll enter in all the details about it, and then you're going to ship that item to Amazon, and then you pay the shipping to get it there, and then from there Amazon's going to take care of the rest of the process. So basically you can ship your items to bulk in Amazon, and then from there Amazon's going to ship it out individually to the customer. So let's just say you bought 15 copies of the board game Monopoly. You can ship all 15 to Amazon at one time, and then Amazon will distribute them to customers as they sell one at a time. So it consolidates the shipping quite a bit. When you sell via FBA, all of your items are eligible for Prime shipping. So any customer who has Amazon Prime can get 2-day shipping on your items, and sometimes faster now. There's free same-day shipping in some cities. Free 1-day shipping is often available too. So whatever items Amazon has that would be available for the Prime shipping that Amazon sells themselves, your items will be available through that as well. So in a nutshell, you buy an item, you ship it to Amazon, Amazon will take care of getting it to the customer. So that's a basic overview of how it works. There's definitely more details that come into play, but that's a good quick overview. All right, question 2. Why would someone buy an item for more online when the same item can be purchased at a local store for less? So this is a really common question that I get. I mean, retail arbitrage, buying low at a local store and then selling high online doesn't always make sense. I mean, why would somebody do that? And it's kind of a hard concept to grasp or wrap your head around sometimes when you're just getting started. So the answer to this there's a few pieces. One of the main ones is not everybody has access to the same deals. So there might be a Target in your area that is clearancing an item out at 70% off, and in another Target in my area, it's only 20% off, or it's at full retail price. So just because I have access to a deal doesn't mean you do, and vice versa. So that's one reason. Another reason is that some people are willing to pay a pretty high premium for convenience. That's what most of the customers who are members of the Amazon Prime program are paying for. They know when they order an item that's fulfilled by Amazon that they're going to get exactly what they expect. They'll get Amazon's customer service. It's going to show up in 2 days or whatever shipping option they selected. And there's just not many mysteries. So many people are willing to pay for that guaranteed level of service. And that's another big reason that people will pay more online compared to in what might be available in your local store. And another thing that happens pretty often is somebody's really going to need a product on a tight timeline. So maybe a kid's birthday is coming up, you need a gift for a client, you need a present for Christmas. There's time-sensitive things where somebody wants a specific item and you don't want to run around to all of these different stores trying to find it, or maybe it's out of stock in your area. A lot of times this leads to someone being willing to pay more for the item online as opposed to trying to track it down on their own. So those are a few reasons, but I can tell you it happens all the time. Just about every item that I sell online, I'm buying it at one price in a retail store and then selling it for considerably more online, enough of a markup to allow me to make a solid profit on the items that I sell. Okay, this is another common question that I get, and that is, can I drop products off at Amazon's FBA warehouses by yourself? So can you load up your boxes that are ready for Amazon FBA and drop them off at a Amazon FBA warehouse? The answer to this, unfortunately, is no. You must ship your products to Amazon. You will get Amazon's partnered rates via UPS and FedEx, whichever one you want. I personally use UPS more, but you can use whichever makes more sense for you. And the partnered rates are very competitive, so it's not going to be a huge cost, but it's not as cheap as if you were able to drop them off yourself. So the answer to this one, though, is you have to ship the products to Amazon's warehouses. Okay, next question is, what are the costs of selling on Amazon? We got another slide to go through this. So if you decide to be a professional seller account or sign up for a professional seller account, then you will pay a $39.99 monthly fee for that. You can also sign up as an individual account. I'll go into details on that in just a few minutes, and that has no monthly fee. If you sign up as the individual account, you'll pay an additional 99-cent fee per item. So you're either going to pay a subscription fee or a little bit more on each item that sells. Then you'll pay a commission based on the category. These range from about 4 to 15% of the total sales price of the item. And then if you're using the Fulfillment by Amazon program, you're going to pay the shipping costs to get it to the customer. These vary depending on the weight of the item, how big it is, and those are the main two factors. And those will range from about $3.50 on the very low end, and it can be $20, $40, $50 depending on the size of the item. Most of the time, it's going to be in the $5 to $10 range if you're selling relatively small items. You will also pay storage fees. So if you have items sitting in Amazon's warehouses, and if you use the Fulfillment by Amazon program, you will have items sitting there. You're going to pay storage fees. These are relatively low. For like a textbook, for example, it's usually about 1 penny per month per book. So it's not crazy, but it helps to keep things moving, keep things out of Amazon's warehouses, and making sure that you're not using them as a storage fee or storage facility. One other component with storage fees is that if your items sit there for greater than 6 months, you'll get charged something known as long-term storage fees, and these are a little bit more significant. It's kind of a tax for taking up space in Amazon's warehouses. So you get notified about that well in advance. So we'll go into more detail on that. There's another question about those. And then if you choose to use Amazon's advertising services, their pay-per-click service, you'll pay fees for that. There's some small fees if you get items sent back to you, if items are returned in certain categories, but this encompasses the vast majority of fees. If you're using the Fulfillment by Amazon program, most of the time the fees are going to be between about 20 and 35% of the actual sales price on the items that you sell, and that's going to include everything. So if you sell an item for $25, you're going to pay about $5 to $8 in fees total, and that includes shipping to the customer. So it depends a little bit on the size of the item and where the customer is, things like that. But for the most part, 20 to 35% is what you can expect. And then one other one that I didn't mention is you also pay the shipping costs to get the item to Amazon as well. But like I mentioned before, you get the Amazon partnered rates, so it makes that pretty reasonable. All right, next up here is what happens if an item you send to FBA warehouses does not sell. So I alluded to this one just a little bit, but you have a couple of options. You can use it, you can have Amazon ship it to a customer if you can, say, sell it on eBay. That's called multi-channel fulfillment. You can have it sent back to you, which would be known as creating a removal order, and that costs only 50 cents for standard size items. So if you have a relatively small item, weighs about 1 to 2 pounds, and it's something you can easily hold in about this much space, it's only going to be 50 cents to get sent back to you, and that includes all of the shipping costs as well. So it's pretty reasonable to get it sent back to you. And those are your main options. You can also, if you want, which I don't really recommend this option, but if the item really has no value anymore, you can have Amazon dispose of it for you. And I believe the fee for that currently is 15 cents an item. So basically you can pay 50 cents, have it sent back to you, 15 cents, they'll throw it away, or you can have it shipped to a customer if you can get it to sell on a different marketplace. So those are your options for having it basically get removed from Amazon's warehouses. If you don't do that, you'll get charged long-term storage fees if an item sits there more than 6 months. So long-term storage fees happen twice a year in February and August. You get notified well in advance. Amazon starts sending out emails at least a month ahead of time. You can run a report at any time and see exactly which items are going to be subject to these fees. So they're really not something to worry about. They are something to pay attention to, and you should plan for them, but you don't have to really worry about them. It's not like you'll suddenly see a bill in your Amazon seller account and you got billed for this huge amount for long-term storage fees without knowing that it was coming. So you'll know well in advance of those fees, and as long as you keep an eye on your inventory, you will be just fine. Okay, next up on our list is how to get started with little to no capital. We've got a few options here, and then we'll go over some more details on this as well. So you don't need a huge amount of capital to start on Amazon, but I think at least $100 to $200 is ideal. Closer to 1,000 is very helpful, but you can definitely get started with whatever you have available. So if you really don't have money available to get started, a few things that I would recommend are to sell on eBay in addition to Amazon. And the reason for that is eBay is a great platform for selling used items that can be bought for very low cost at places like thrift stores. And then you can sell those in addition to selling on Amazon. I recommend looking for items that are free on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, LetGo, and any other similar place like that in your area. See what you can find out there, and then turn around, list those items for a cost back on these same marketplaces, or post them for sale on eBay. You'd be surprised at the type of free items you can find on that. And my goal with those types of things would be to get about $100 to $200 in cash. Keep doing that until you have that amount of money available. And then I'd start to buy items to sell online. And then a few other options, if you don't like the free option route, is if you have a car, you could drive for Uber or Lyft. You could do odd jobs on a service like TaskRabbit, temporarily get an additional job or work some extra hours at your current job to just save up a little bit of money to be able to get this business off the ground. There's another service called Rev, just REV, where you can do transcriptions for basically if someone has a video they want to get a transcript of, you can do that for them, and then you get paid a certain amount per minute that the video is. So those are just a few options out there, but my recommendation is to test out a few of these different options and see what you can come up with to get some startup capital. One other one that I didn't mention on here is if you have items around your house, that can be a good way to go too. Like if you've got a gift for Christmas that you're never going to use, or you just have something that's been sitting around your house never used for the past 6 months or a year, I would recommend seeing what you could sell those items for and get some initial capital to get off the ground. So once you have at least $100, that's when I'd really look to get started with this. And the process is basically the same. So whether you're starting with $100 or $1,000, I would still recommend starting with this basic framework, as it's a great way to learn the basics of selling on Amazon, learn how everything works, make sure it's a good fit for you, and then you can leverage that experience in the future to do just about any other type of selling online that you want. It'll be good business experience. So once you have a little bit of capital, I recommend signing up for the Amazon Seller app. You sign up for a seller account, and then you'll download the Amazon Seller app. Once you have that, go to a local big box store, a place like Walmart, Target, Toys R Us, Big Lots, whatever's in your area, whatever's close. And then once you're at the store, look for the clearance sections or the markdown sections, items that are on sale. And then you're going to use your phone to scan those items. And you're going to be looking for items that have greater than a 50% return on investment and a sales rank of less than 250,000. You'll want to focus on categories that you can sell in. When you're looking at the app, it's going to tell you if you can sell and are approved for certain items, and it's also going to tell you if you aren't approved. So make sure you're focusing on items and categories that you can sell in, and then don't buy more than 6 of each item when you're just getting started. That's just to keep your inventory diversified. And then when you're pricing your items, listing them for sale on Amazon, price it at or slightly above the low fulfillment by Amazon price. So let's say you're listing a copy of the board game Monopoly and someone else is selling it for $19.99 and they're fulfilled by Amazon. I'd recommend pricing it at least at $20 and potentially up to 2% higher than that person. So I would price that item between $20 and $20.39. This makes sure that you avoid what's known as the race to the bottom. And what happens there is, say you priced, there's the seller priced at $19.99, you price it at $19.98, they want to beat you and have the lowest price, and then they go to $19.97, and before you know it, this cycle keeps continuing and the price of the item deteriorates. So I recommend pricing at an absolute minimum price at the price of the low FBA seller, and a little bit above is my recommendation. Ultimately, the decision is yours, but that's what I've found works well for me. All right, and then you want to keep the momentum going once you have it. So once you have purchased some items, sent those in, and they're starting to sell, I highly recommend continuing to reinvest the money that comes in into more inventory and reinvest your profits from the beginning. That's what I've done with my business, and it's allowed it to grow very quickly. Be willing to hustle and get creative. So look for items for free, partner with family and friends. Maybe they have some things that they want to sell that that they don't need around the house, and you can sell it for them in return for a 40% commission or something like that. So get creative. There's a lot of ways to do this. And then once you have that initial startup capital, start going to the retail stores and see what type of results you can get. So I'll just take a quick pause here for question 7. It looks like there's some questions coming in the chat. If you guys could put those, make sure you're tagging those as Q&A. Before you hit enter, you should have the option to select Q&A as opposed to just putting it in the chat. So please put those the questions you have, make sure you're getting those properly classified as a question, and then they show up in a separate feed for me, and we'll make sure we get to those at the end of this webinar. So should be in about 10 to 15 minutes, we'll be diving into the questions that you guys have. Next question here is how to deal with restricted products. So I kind of alluded to this in one of those last couple questions, but there are certain items on Amazon that you're not going to be able to sell. They could be a brand like Xbox, Apple, things like that, Disney toys. It's very unlikely that you'll be able to sell those when you're a brand new seller. So if you come across a situation like that, my recommendation is to, I guess I don't have another slide for that one, is to look into selling it on eBay. Maybe you can sell it on a local marketplace if it's really an exceptionally good deal. But ultimately, my recommendation is to focus on products you can sell initially. There's 20 to 30 different categories on Amazon that you'll be eligible to sell in, things like toys, home and garden, home improvement, books, you name it. There's a whole bunch of categories you can sell in. So my recommendation, focus on those categories first, focus on the items you can sell, and spend your time there initially. Over time, you can potentially get approvals for additional categories, and then from there, you can continue to buy and sell more items. And if you can't get the approval from Amazon for whatever reason, then I recommend looking into eBay and seeing what you can do there too, because eBay doesn't have the same level of restrictions as Amazon does. All right, next up is a common one I get, and that's, can I get started without paying the $39.99 fee. Let's see if I can. I'm going to put a link in the chat here, but if you go to that link, there's an option to sign up as an individual account, an individual seller account, as opposed to the professional seller account. It's partway down the screen. But if you click that link, you'll have the option to sign up as an individual, and there won't be any monthly fee. So the only real downside of the individual account as compared to the professional seller account is you'll be charged an additional 99-cent fee on every item that you sell, and then you won't have the ability to use third-party tools. So there's the Amazon Seller app's free. You'll be able to use that with the individual seller account, but there's third-party apps, scanning apps that have a little bit of additional functionality. You won't be able to use some of those right away. But either way, whenever you are selling 40 items a month or more, then you should definitely be signing up as a professional seller or switching your account to the professional seller account. And you can switch back and forth if needed in the future. But you can get started. The short answer to this one is you can get started without paying the $39.99 monthly fee. And I put the link in the chat, so you should be able to find that if you are looking for it. And then how do customer returns work with FBA is the next question. So when you sell your items with FBA, it's almost identical. The process works as if the customer bought the item from Amazon. So if they want to return the item, they just tell Amazon they want to return it. They tell them what the reason is, and then Amazon will let the customer return the item as long as it's within the return window. So the customer is going to ship it back to Amazon, and then Amazon's going to inspect the item for you. If it's still in brand new condition or the condition that it was when you sent it to Amazon, then it's going to go right back available for sale in your inventory. And no additional action is needed for you. It'll be available for sale for another customer to purchase. The other option is it's damaged, something's wrong with the item. In that case, it's going to show up in your what's known as unfulfillable inventory. So in that case, it's not going to be available for sale. And what you'll have to do is create a removal order and get it sent back to you. And that'll cost you 50 cents. And then you can inspect it and see what the condition is and potentially send it back into Amazon, sell it there. Or if it's damaged, then you might have to sell it on eBay or a different marketplace. Okay. Next and final of the first 10 that we'll be going over is, will customers buy items from me even if I don't have any feedback? So the first point I want to make here is that everybody started with 0 feedback at one point in time. Everybody started from square one. So the answer to this is yes. Any seller that you see out there today that has 10,000 feedback or even 1,000 feedback or even 100 feedback, they all started with 0. So the answer to this is yes. My recommendation when it comes to feedback is just make sure you're taking care of the customers that do buy items from you. Make sure you send them a thank you, ask them for feedback if they don't leave feedback within the first 7 days or so, and then just make sure everything was okay with their order. And then make sure that you're properly listing your item for sale, properly representing the condition. And if you do all of these things, it should take care of itself. You won't have too many issues with getting feedback. I would guess that once you have sold 25 to 50 items, you should have 1 or 2 feedback. The customers on Amazon don't leave feedback at a very high rate. I think right now I get feedback on like 3 to 4% of my orders, so it's pretty low. But if you're manually sending out thank yous and reaching out to customers, thanking them for the order, asking if they'd help you as a new small business, things like that, that should help boost the percentage. So if you don't have feedback, I wouldn't worry too much about it. Price your items competitively, you'll get some sales, and the feedback will start to come over time. All right, we're going to go over one quick thing, and then we will dive into the Q&A session of this webinar. But if you're looking for a complete roadmap to getting started selling on Amazon, I've got a quick option for you. And then before we dive into this, one quick reminder, please, with the questions, looks like everybody's been doing it so far, but put them in as, make sure you're going into the Q&A section, marking them as Q&A as opposed to just going into the general chat. And we'll be I'll be diving into your guys' questions in about 2 minutes. All right, so I do have a course available. It's called How to Make $1,000 a Month Selling on Amazon. It's going to walk you through step-by-step how to do everything that you need to know to begin making an income selling on Amazon. It's going to show you how to avoid the mistakes I made when I was just getting started, and hopefully be able to allow you to skip those and save you a significant amount of time in the learning curve. It shows you exactly how to source inventory, and it focuses on retail arbitrage. It'll show you how to source products at places like Walmart, Target, Toys R Us, and similar stores. It's going to give you the exact buying guidelines that I recommend, how I figure out which products make sense to buy, and it's going to go over operational aspects of the business as well. So how to know what Amazon reports to look at, how to know when orders come in, and things like that. So pretty much everything you need to know about getting started. This course has. This is the type of thing that I wish I had when I was getting started, and I decided to put together this roadmap so that future people can follow it. As there's a special webinar offer today, so if you're on this call, you can get access to this, and it's only going to be available for the next 48 hours. With the course, I offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. There's a 25% discount off the current price that it is today with code NEWYEAR25. The price of the course is going to be increasing by at least $50 before the end of the month. I've been working with a copywriter, and they've been telling me my price is too low. So it's going to be going up an additional $50 above where it is now. And the 25% off coupon is good off the current price. So you'll save a good amount if you get it today versus a month down the road. One testimonial that I wanted to share, this is from someone in the course who just got started. You can see this comment was posted about a month ago. They said, "Hi Ryan, I did not post a goal when I started the class, but my goal was to sell my first $1,000 in month 1. I set up my account and got started shipping inventory at the end of October. I had to verify my account, and that was completed on November 6th, and my first sale was on November 9th. I've attached a screenshot from early morning on December 1st with month 1 and sales of $2,320. I'm still learning a lot and asking questions, but wanted to say thank you for sharing your knowledge. My December goal was $3,000 in sales, but I upped it to $5,000 in sales. By the way, I have a 22-month-old daughter and a 3-year-old foster son, and I work full-time. I only say that to hopefully encourage any other working parents in the class. Thanks, Ryan." And then you can see on the right-hand side, the screenshot there, $2,320 in sales. So that's one user's result after being in the course for only about a month. So if you want to get access with the webinar bonuses and get in at the current price, just go to onlineselling-experiment.com/course, and then you can get access to that. There should be a button popping up as well. If you do a full payment, the price is $224.25 after the coupon code, or there's a payment option available for payments of $66.75. Again, that code is NEWYEAR25, and the code expires in 48 hours. So if you're going to check that out, I'd do it either today or tomorrow. So at this point, I'll start diving into the Q&A portion, and then I'll turn off the screen share here in a little bit, but we'll leave that up for a little bit. Okay, I'm going to start at the bottom. Keep the questions rolling in if you guys got them, and we'll go through these until at least 6:35 Central. All right, or until we get through all the questions, whichever we get to first. All right, so the first one we've got here is from Deb. Are skids required for shipping product? We have several different products packaged separately. I wonder if skids are necessary. So I assume this is referring to pallets, also known as skids. If you're going to be shipping huge volumes of product to Amazon, then it's a good idea. For most people on this, I would anticipate that you'll be shipping via smaller boxes. And so I guess the answer to this is you either have to ship them in boxes that are suitable for shipping, and if you're shipping a ton of products, then it does need to be on a pallet. It wouldn't be able to be just wrapped. It would need to have a base of a pallet of some sort. Okay, then we've got Travis is asking, how could recommend expanding to eBay? What should be my first steps? So when it comes to selling on eBay, I would approach that similar to what you're doing on Amazon and similar to what I recommend there as well. I'd be looking to buy items that are at a discount in retail stores. I would be looking at thrift stores, looking for, say, name brand clothing that's a good price, looking for unique items, looking for board games, puzzles, things like that. And then what I recommend there is download the eBay mobile app. And when you do a search on the app, go into the settings and make sure you check the completed listings box, and then you're going to be able to see exactly what's sold on eBay. So you go into the store, find items that you think are interesting, type in the name of them, and then make sure you're searching and have that completed listings box checked, and you'll be able to see exactly what the items have been selling for. So the green will be items that have sold, listings that have sold. Red will be listings that didn't sell. So I recommend comparing what the price you can buy the item for is in that store, and then comparing it to what the items have sold for in the past. And if there's a good amount of margin there, then I'd buy that item, list it for sale on eBay, which is basically taking pictures, writing a quick description, and then you'll ship it to the customer once it sells. That would be my approach if you're getting started from selling on eBay from scratch. If you want to cross-list all of your inventory from eBay from Amazon over to eBay, so basically duplicating your Amazon storefront on eBay, there's a couple tools out there. I use one called Joe Lister, and it basically copies all my Amazon listings over to eBay, and then if they get purchased on eBay, it'll automatically communicate with Amazon and ship that to the customer. So that's a couple of ways of my recommendations for getting onto eBay. All right, James is asking, after you've identified a product you would like to sell, how do you go about establishing a relationship with the manufacturer? So basically we reach out and see if they are interested in any additional distributors. We tell them what our business does, see if we can help them in any way. But basically we reach out, ask, and see where the conversation goes. If we can help them in some way, we definitely will. We'll see what their pain points are, things like that. But really, my recommendation is reach out, ask, see where it goes. Scott is asking, are you a big fan of drop shipping? I wouldn't say that I'm a big fan of drop shipping. I've done just a little bit in the past. It's never been something that I've put a ton of time and effort into. I would just say when it comes to drop shipping, make sure you're following the terms of service on the different websites that you're using. And as long as you do those things, you should be just fine. But I personally prefer getting started with retail arbitrage or online arbitrage as opposed to getting started with drop shipping. Jonathan is asking, where do you source for online arbitrage? Just about any website that's out there. I don't like to say, outside of like the big box stores, I don't generally give out the names of specific stores. But whenever somebody asks me if a certain store or a certain website is an opportunity, the answer is yes. Just about any website out there is worth exploring. So I've bought from sites like Walmart, Target, Toys R Us. Those have all been places I've bought from in the past, and then some websites you've probably never heard of that are much smaller. So basically, I recommend picking a site that you're familiar with, you know their markdown schedule, and starting that way, or just picking a product category that you're interested in and start at those sites and then branch out from there. But I highly recommend just testing out as many different sites as possible. And I'm guessing you'll come across some good items. Okay, Sen is asking, my accountant mentioned that I would be responsible for income tax, not sales tax, where Amazon warehouses had Nexus. How do you guys deal with this, or what exactly are you other FBA customers doing? Well, I'm not a CPA, and I'm not going to be able to get into exactly what I do for sales tax, but my recommendation here is I would definitely check back with your accountant. You're much more likely to be on the hook for sales tax than income tax in the states you have Nexus. And then my other recommendation, if you Google online selling experiment and then sales tax, I've written 3 different posts about it, all of my perspective on it, and it goes into a lot more detail than I'll be able to go into on this call here. But if you Google online selling experiment sales tax, you can get my full take on the issue. And like I said, in this case, I would definitely go back to your CPA, because the nexus requirements for sales tax are a lot lower than for income tax. So the odds that you would be on the hook for income tax in all these different states and not sales tax seems extremely low. Nathan is asking, what do you look for in a product when selling it on Amazon? So for retail arbitrage, I'm looking for a sales rank of less than 250,000 and a return on investment of more than 50%. And just so we're clear on return on investment, that means if I'm spending $10 on the product, I want to get paid by Amazon after all fees $15. That means I've got $15 back on a $10 investment, which is a $5 profit. And then I divide that $5 profit by my initial investment of $10, and that equals 50%. So I'm looking for that or more. And those are the main two things that I'm looking for. Nathan's asking, what's a reasonable sales rank? Less than 250,000 is a good good barrier there, or a good I'm not sure what, I'm stumbling over my words there, but a good place to start, less than 250,000. Chris is asking, how does a reseller get past the hurdle from Amazon to provide manufacturing documentation required on gating? On every category I'm trying to sell in, they're looking for one of these: FDA registration, good manufacturing process. As either arbitrage seller or buying from wholesaler, I have no access to these types of forms. If they're looking for like an FDA type of registration, most likely it sounds like you're trying to sell food or like a grocery type item. My recommendation would be to pick a different category. If you're selling like a home good type item, toys, home improvement, books, you shouldn't have those types of requirements. But if Amazon is asking for specific documentation to get ungated somewhere, I recommend providing what they're looking for and not trying to get around their requirements. It's only going to lead to trouble in the future, but there are quite a few categories that you'll be able to sell in right out of the gate. So my recommendation would be to focus on those, or if you want to get ungated, go through whatever the process is that Amazon requires for it and go through it that way. Okay, we covered one of those. Darlena is asking about restricted products. We covered that earlier in the webinar. John is asking, I just started and love it so far. Do you fear that Amazon will shut FBA market down or make it super hard for sellers to make a profit? I struggle with being at the mercy of Amazon to build a business. I don't think Amazon's going to shut the FBA program down. I think that would be a poor move. They make a ton of money off of the FBA program. I just read an article last week that over 50% of the sales on Amazon are now happening from third-party sellers, and a good portion of those are via the Fulfillment by Amazon program. So I do think that the Fulfillment by Amazon program is here to stay. It's possible that in the future they could gate more brands or make people restricted on more items, but I do think there's a lot of runway still to sell online. I think you make a good point about being at the mercy of Amazon, and I don't think you should have a business that's fully reliant on Amazon. That's why my business, we sell on Amazon, we sell on eBay, we sell on Jet, we do some consulting, we do a variety of different things so that we have income coming in from different areas, and then we're not as reliant on just the Amazon business. Just one other point on that is, when you're first getting started, I don't recommend diversifying too much. So until you're making a few $1,000s per month at least in profit selling on Amazon, I wouldn't worry about diversifying. I would start worrying about diversifying once you have something that's up and running, and then look to diversify from there. In my business, we've had great results focusing on one thing, get a process up and running, outsource that process, and then from there, that's when you look to diversify and start something else. So hope that helps, John. Tiffany was asking about ROI. Hopefully that was answered a little bit ago in a different question, and is asking, where do we get listing of Amazon ranking list? So if you want to know what the sales rank on any product is, you can go just look on the page on Amazon, go to any product that you want, And then if you scroll partway down in the product details section, there will be something known as the best sellers rank or the sales rank, and it'll show you for any product. If you have the Amazon Seller app and you scan it with your phone, then it will show you that as the number in whatever category it is as well. Jag Store is asking, do I purchase an item with no rank, or is it too high of a risk? Personally, I don't purchase items with no rank unless it's just an extremely high return on investment. So if it's something that I can buy for $1 and it says it's selling for 50, that's something where I'll buy and take a chance on it. But outside of that, I don't buy those items. Matthew Johnson is asking, how do you find an edge in OA when everyone else has tools like OA X-Ray? So there's a couple tools out there and some that I use in my business. So I'll just mention this quick. But if you want to see all the tools that I use in my business, you can go to onlinesellingexperiment.com/resources. One of the tools on that list is called Tactical Arbitrage, and it helps to automate the process of online arbitrage and finding items to buy. So in terms of finding an edge, I do think those tools are incredibly useful. They help to make it much more efficient to go through the process. So I would consider using the tools. If that's not feasible for you for whatever reason, not in the budget at the current time, then I would look at finding sites that those tools don't work on. Like Tactical Arbitrage, it works on 300 or 400 different websites, but it doesn't work on all of them. So you could go through manually on some of these other sites, and going through manually also has its advantages because you'll have the ability to notice things that software might not, because like a software might not pick up if there's a really good deal on one product and it doesn't match the listing exactly. And there are some advantages, but my advice is to find a way to use those tools to your advantage. And most likely you'll find items. Like for Tactical Arbitrage, my business has 2 subscriptions. We're most likely going to get a 3rd, so we can do more product searches. We also have more manual process that we have virtual assistants on the team do as well, and they're just literally going to a website, going through the clearance, comparing it to Amazon, and sending us a list of the ones that make sense. So there's lots of ways to do it, but I would try to focus on sites that, or like sites like OA X-Ray and Tactical Arbitrage don't work on. Nathan is asking, after watching your segment on you about CNBC, you mentioned selling Lego starting off. How are you able to do that without being a restricted product? So when it comes to restrictions, restrictions are different for different sellers. So when I first got it started off, Lego wasn't restricted for me. It isn't something that I've sold lately. I believe it's restricted for me now too. But when I was first starting, it was eligible to be sold, and I was able to sell it that way. So just keep in mind with restrictions that it's based a lot on your selling history, how many items you've sold, what types of items you're selling, how your performance has been. And the better you're performing, the more items you're selling, the more likely you are to get approved in additional items and additional brands. So Lego was an item I could sell right away. And then, like, since my account is more established and I have a good account health, I've been performing well, it's more likely that I'll get approved for things as opposed to a brand new seller. But if you get to that same level, you're performing well on Amazon, then it's much more likely you'll be able to sell additional brands. All right, Jeff is asking, we purchased a number of sets of items, but then had them rejected or otherwise not able to do FBA for those items. How do you know what items to go with? So I'll give you 2 answers here. The course that I have goes into complete detail on my sourcing process, how to know what to buy, how to avoid this type of situation where you bought something that you can't sell. And it just goes into all of this to make sure that you're not wasting time on items that you can't sell for whatever reason. But in terms of how to know which items to go with, the general guidelines that I'll give you today are: get the Amazon Seller app, look for a sales rank under 250,000, return on investment over 50%, and make sure that it says in the Seller app that you're eligible to sell it. If you do those 3 things, you should be good to go. You shouldn't have too many issues with actually being able to sell items. And in the case where it sounds like you're right now, where you have some items you can't sell on Amazon, my recommendation is either to return it to the store if you don't want to go through the process of selling them somewhere else, or I would look at listing them on eBay and selling them on that platform instead. Will is asking about a tool called Unicorn Smasher, not a tool that I use at this time. Matthew Johnson, for your own sourcers, do you have more fine-grained buying rules that you can share? 250K books is a lot different than 250K in lawn. Do you share these rules in outsourcing sourcing? Yeah, you make a great point. The sales rank is definitely different by category. I share the full breakdown of what I'm doing in the course, onlinesellingexperiment.com/course. There's a version of those also included in the outsourcing sourcing ebook that I have as well. Nathan's asking, what is the typical time frame that it takes for a product to sell with a sales rank under 250K? It's going to depend a little bit on the category, how many other sellers there are, and a few other variables like that. But my goal with any item that I buy is that it's sold within 3 months, and I'm ahead of that pace. So if you do that, definitely should be sold within 3 months on average. But keep in mind that's an average. So like if you buy 10 items, probably 3 will sell in month 1, 4 will sell in month 2, 2 will sell in month 3, and the last straggler, the last 1 or 2 will sell in month 4 or 5. So keep that in mind as well. China is asking, this Amazon seller dashboard seems very confusing. You go over it in detail in your course. So in the course, I have multiple modules on the Amazon seller account, what reports I look at, what doesn't need to be looked at as much. And in the course, I have the ability to leave comments below videos, ask questions. And if there's questions that aren't covered in the course, then I add videos. I've been adding videos all throughout the year since I've had it created. I created the course in about August, and I've added multiple videos each month to go over additional questions and make sure it's up to date. So I would say there's a very good chance that it's already answered in a video in the course. If it's not, you can leave a comment below a video in the course requesting a video, and we can, and I'll get it made for you too. All right, Kevin is asking, can we take the course concurrently while doing Amazon, or shall we do the course first? You can definitely do it at the same time. I think if you're going to do the course, I think it makes it go through a portion of it first and then get started, just to make sure that you're getting started on the right foot. You avoid some of the early pitfalls and just make sure you're getting started on everything started right. But it's definitely something you could try on your own first, see how it goes, and then if you're not able to get the results you want, then you could try the course at that point. There's not necessarily a right or wrong way to do it, but my recommendation is if you were going to do the course, I would get it first, just so that you can go through it ahead of time, ahead of getting started, and then you can hopefully shorten your learning curve in that way. Darlene is asking about the cost of the course. I mentioned that briefly. The full pay option is $224.25, and then if you do the 4 payment plan, it's about, I think it's $66.75 a month. Matthew is asking about starting from square one. Do you recommend setting up LLC before selling anything? What other things should you do before you start selling? See an accountant, etc. So I'm going to start this off with the disclaimer that I'm not a lawyer or a CPA, so I can't give official legal or tax advice, but this is going to vary largely depending on what level of assets you have, if you have something at risk. So first I'll tell you what I did. So when I started this, I mean, I was 24, I believe, and I didn't have any significant assets. So I didn't set up an LLC, and I just started off as a sole proprietorship. And then once I knew I was going to take it seriously and put in a lot of time on it, that's when I set up the LLC. So that's what made sense for me. If I was, let's just say I'm 45, I own my house, I have some more substantial assets, and if something goes wrong, then I have something that I can really lose. If that's the scenario, then I'm much more likely to set up the LLC in advance. I do think talking to an accountant in your area is a good idea as well before you get started. One other thing that I like to recommend is make sure that I like to see a separate bank account set up before you get started. This way you can keep track of everything completely separate for tax purposes. You can also keep track of it for your own purposes and make sure that you know exactly how much the business is making and how much money you're pulling out of it. If it's all combined in your personal finances, it can be a little bit unclear of how much money you're making or if you're taking money out of the business, things like that. So I like to see a separate bank account set up, and that saves some time down the road. Those would be the main things. And then, yeah, those would be the main things. I would just, as long as you're thinking about these things, I think you'll be just fine. But I'd make sure you do what you're comfortable with. Talk to the professionals in your area. Most will do a free consultation with you and see what makes sense. But those would be the main things. Okay. All right, we've got about 10 minutes left here. Hopefully be able to get through quite a few more of these, and we'll see how many we can do. All right, Lynette is asking, I've tried to enter 3 new items, including UPC, but I've never been able to successfully get it entered. What am I doing wrong? It's possible the item's not listed for sale on Amazon. That would be the most likely scenario. In that case, you'd have to create a new listing for it. But if you're scanning the barcode with the Amazon Seller app and it comes up, then it should work by typing in the UPC. If that doesn't work for whatever reason, it'll show you the ASIN on the Amazon Seller app. ASIN is called Amazon Stock Information Number, and it's basically a unique identifier specifically for the Amazon platform. If you type that into your desktop, it will work, or it should work. So hopefully that helps. Jag Store is asking, is the rest of the year much slower in sales than the holiday season? It seems sales have dropped drastically since the holiday. I mean, definitely you see a big increase in December. It's the best time of the year to be an Amazon seller. In my business, it's between double and triple a normal month compared to this time of the year. So it's lower, but there's still a lot of opportunity year round, in my opinion. Deb is asking, sales is not necessarily profit or take home, correct? Absolutely. Sales is the top line number. That's how much a customer pays for your item. Net profit is after the cost of the item, all of the fees, any other rent, utility bills, tools and services that you're using. Profit is after that amount. So sales is definitely not the take-home amount. Robert is saying, I've worked for Walmart for over 18 years. I know all the markdown dates, the ins and outs, and the clearance process. Do you think this would be an advantage for me getting started with my Amazon selling business? Absolutely. Yeah, that would definitely be a big advantage. I would focus on when you know that there's going to be significant markdowns on the clearance. That's what I would focus on the most. So absolutely, big advantage. Kate's asking, when selling on eBay, where is the best place to obtain shipping boxes and packing materials? I like to use the free USPS, which is the United States Postal Service supplies. If you go to USPS.com, and then they have a variety of free boxes. You do have to use priority mail if you use those boxes, but there's a bunch of different sizes. Most of the time, as long as your item weighs more than a pound, you'll most likely be using priority mail anyway. So getting a variety of those boxes, especially some of the flat rate boxes, the padded flat rate envelope, the regional rate boxes, look into some of those. Those are what I like to use most. If you need other sizes of boxes, generally, if I just need a few, I'll look to get them on either eBay or Amazon, as long as I need about 25. If you're going to buy a lot of boxes, like hundreds, then I'd look into uline.com. So hopefully that helps. Duncan, what are the better items to sell on Amazon? I go to the retail store and 98% of what I scan through the seller app either don't sell or have FBA fees like 40 to 50% of the sale price. I would say that that's actually not too far off. I mean, most of the items you scan, you're not going to buy. So this definitely takes time and effort. It's kind of like fishing in a way. You're gonna cast a bunch of times, and you're only gonna buy a small percentage of the time. I would anticipate for every 100 items you scan, you'll buy maybe 5 to 10. So over time, those percentages increase dramatically, but you're still going to scan a lot more items than you ever buy. But in terms of the best items to sell, I don't recommend focusing on any certain one type of item or one specific category, one specific store, things like that. I just focus on what's available to me and can I make money on it. And I don't care if, for me, I don't care if the fees are 40 to 50% of the price, as long as I can still make money on it. So say it's an item that sells for $100, they want to charge me $50 in fees, but I can buy it for $20. I'll get paid $50 once it sells, and then I buy it for $20, and then I make $30 profit still on that sale. So that's how I think about it. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Richard, how long will I have access to the course? The course comes with lifetime access. So you will have access to it for as long as it exists. Brandon is asking, what do you think about using Alibaba or AliExpress and then selling on Amazon? I think it's a viable method to do it. A lot of people do it and are successful with it. My personal thought is that it's a riskier way to get started than starting with retail arbitrage. If you're going to get started on Alibaba or AliExpress, generally you have to invest a few $100s before you know if the product's going to sell. With retail arbitrage, you have data on the product that shows it's sold in the past. So I think it's a lower barrier to entry and just an easier way to get started with retail arbitrage. And then once you learn the process, learn how everything works, then that's when I'd look into the Alibaba, AliExpress, branding your own products. So that's the way I approach it. You can definitely do it either way, but my personal preference is to start with retail arbitrage. Joseph is asking, which structure would you suggest, LLC or S Corp? Again, not a lawyer or a tax professional, but my business is currently set up as an LLC, taxed as an S Corp. So I'm an LLC and elected S Corp taxation. There was just the new tax bill passed and took effect for 2018, so I'll be revisiting that with my CPA at the beginning of this year just to see if that still makes sense. But most likely, things will stay the same. But as it sits today, I'm an LLC taxed as an S Corp. All right, we're coming down to the end here, so I'm going to go through a few more questions. I might not be able to quite get to all these, unfortunately. I'll scroll through and get through as many as we can. Average cost per pound when shipping to Amazon is 50 cents for my business. So I'd start off there. If you want to be really conservative, go with $1 a pound. James, it's very easily identified with the Amazon seller app if an item is restricted. So if you get that app, it's right in front of the screen. It's going to show a green check mark or a red X. Duncan, for the monthly subscription, does that mean I do not pay FBA fees when purchasing a product or listing that product on Amazon? Nope, doesn't mean that. You just save a 99-cent fee every time an item sells. Other than that, the fees are the same. Dash is asking about, are people in a high sales tax state at a disadvantage when it comes to local retail arbitrage? My recommendation there, look into if you can purchase tax exempt, and then you won't have to pay sales tax at the point of purchase. Richard's asking about the Amazon app that I was recommending. Look up the Amazon seller app. It's direct from Amazon, and it is free. Paul is asking, how often is the course updated, and will it be updated as Amazon changes the rules? So far, I've been adding videos to it every month. If there's any changes to the process, I'll continue to update it from there. As long as I'm selling it, I plan on keeping it updated. So as long as this process works, which I anticipate it will for many years, then the course will be updated. Nancy's asking about, is that in USD, US dollars? Everything I've been talking about is in US dollars, so we're going to go with yes. Does your course break down the sending, packing regulations, sending your items to Amazon? Yep, the course has a full breakdown of how to list your items for sale, how to basically do everything on the computer, and then it's been requested of me to do a video of actually boxing it up and show the in-person side of it too. So I'm going to be adding that in the future too. Nancy's asking as well, how old do you have to be to get started? You technically need to be 18 to have an account. or teenage entrepreneurs welcome. Technically, no, if they have a parent that's willing to set up the account in their name or something like that, though, I think that's great. And let's see. All right. Matthew's asking, do you have an updated credit card rewards list you frequently use? I don't. That's something I plan on looking at early this year and just making sure that I have the best cards that I can to optimize rewards. But I can tell you the main three I'm using now: American Express Business Platinum, mainly just because of the level of spending it can handle. I mean, my business, during Q4 especially, we're spending well into the six figures. And having that balance on there, and it's the only card that gives us that type of limit, and the rewards are decent. The other two are the Capital One Spark card, 2% cash back, and then the Chase Ink, which is pretty solid as well. So those are the main ones I'm using. Steve, I don't hold holiday stock for a more appropriate season. I left it right away. Let's see, we'll scroll through there quick. Robert, because of my knowledge and insight into Walmart markdowns, are you in need of anyone else on your staff? LOL. That was Robert saying the LOL. I appreciate the offer. At the moment, we're not looking for any additional buyers. If we are, I'll let you know. I think you might have sent me an email too. I think I saw something about that, or had somebody on my team mention it to me. But yeah, feel free to send me an email on that, and if that happens in the future, I'll let you know. But I definitely encourage you to give it a shot yourself. That inside knowledge can definitely help, can probably help to build some relationships with the staff and things like that too. All right, we'll do one last question here, and then I've got to run for tonight. Deb's asking, can I reuse boxes other items have been shipped in, removing their labels and barcodes and place my labels on them? Yep, you can definitely reuse boxes. But like you mentioned, be 100% sure that you get all of the stickers removed. We've made the mistake in the past accidentally of leaving a shipping label on the item, and then it goes somewhere completely different. So just make sure you remove all other barcodes from it, and you should be just fine. We got one last quick one. Joseph's asking, how fast can you go through the course? There's about 4 to 5 hours of video total, and there's a few downloads and things, but you could get through it in a few days if you really were cruising through it. So that's what I would say there. Cool. All right, guys. You're welcome, Paul. Hopefully this was helpful for many of you. There should be a replay link that's sent out after this as well. If you do want to check out the course, onlinesellingesperiment.com/course, it covers just about all of these questions and many more. If you want to do that, make sure you use the coupon code NEWYEAR25 and get that discount while it lasts. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with me for the past hour and a little bit more. I hope you guys have a good night, and I hope you start making money on Amazon soon. If I can help you in any way, best way to reach me is by leaving a comment on a blog post. I respond to all of those. I go through them once or twice a week at this point. And if we weren't, I think we were able to get most of the questions. But if we weren't, if you Google the name of your question and then online selling experiment, there's a good chance I've covered it in a blog post in the past. And like I said, if you ever need to reach me, leave a comment on one of my blog posts. That's one of the best ways to do it. And then you guys are all on my email list as well. So I'll send out emails like this anytime that I'm doing a webinar in the future. So thank you, everyone. We'll talk to you soon, and hope you have a good night.